and Sam have just moved to Santa Carla, California. They're about to discover its secret.
Notice anything unusual about Santa Carla yet?
No. It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire.
When you're a
I'm your brother, Sammy. Help me!
Stay back! Stay back!
What's happening when they start?
Get yourself a good sharp steak.
Drive it right to his heart.
You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a damn blood-sucking vampire. Will you wait till Mom finds out, buddy?
When a vampire buys it, it's never a pretty sight.
Michael, they're coming! Oh,
Very smooth.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We're back.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between. Hey, guys, my name's Pete.
And I'm Scott. And these are the movies that made us gay. Pete, this is like the third movie in a row that I would probably put in like my personal top 10.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
We did The Lost Boys.
Yay!
Released July 31st, 1987, with our good friend, straight ally,
Yes, indeed.
Billy Roach.
Hi,
Billy,
thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
So excited to be
So
here.
we landed on Lost Boys. I really wanted you to come on for a Weird Science episode.
Oh, yeah.
So it was
Still
between
can.
this and Weird Science. We will get to Weird Science, but I feel like kind of with the passing of Joel Schumacher, this movie felt a little more kind of important to talk to right now.
Yeah.
And you are sort of an expert on this movie.
I mean, I love this movie. I was introduced to just vampires and like horror culture at a very like young age, and this movie is very important to me. You know, getting into that.
Yeah.
It's such a phenomenal film, and I'm excited that we're talking about it.
Good.
Yeah, same here. It's definitely a movie that I remember discovering when I was probably in the 6th grade and just fucking loving it.
You know, and to tell you the truth, I don't even remember the first time seeing it.
I
feel
remember.
Like Lost Boys
I
was
remember
just
the first time seeing it.
I feel like Lost Boys was just always, and this is going to sound terrible, like a part of my life. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but like Lost Boys always has been and always will be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like I don't really remember the first time I saw it. I definitely didn't see it in the theater, but I just do remember just having this awareness of it. Mm-hmm. Always.
So, I mean, if I had to venture a guess, sorry, Scott, if I had to venture a guess, it was probably like late night cable, maybe HBO or something when I was a kid.
Yeah, it had to have been that.
So I remember this movie. I remember my mom actually telling me when I was a kid that I think probably when we were discussing vampire movies or something, because, I mean, I was a kid when Bram Stoker's Dracula came out, and I just remember my mom telling me that she really enjoyed a movie called Lost Boys. Uh-huh. And my mom is not really someone that really likes horror movies, but my mom, I remember just telling me that she just thought it was really funny.
Sure.
It is
that
funny that
she
you say
just
that.
like really appreciated the humor, and I remember her just telling me when I was a kid, I just thought it was really funny.
I mean, a lot of people consider Lost Boys a comedy. Just like a lot of people also consider American Werewolf in London a comedy.
Yeah,
I would see it playing like late night on Comedy Central, and I'm like, I guess I didn't get the
a
joke.
movie that has fun genres. And I remember I was spending the night at my friend Charlie's house when I was probably in the 5th or 6th grade, and it was on cable on like TNT, probably Monster Vision or something.
Yeah,
because I used to watch Monster Vision a lot with Joe Bob Briggs.
Yeah, Joe Bob Briggs.
Briggs. And I remember catching the ending of it. And then when I got home, I told my mom that I finally watched a little bit of Lost Boys and I loved it. And oddly enough, we had it taped. And this is the tape that I mentioned on our Overboard episode.
Oh, yeah.
It went Overboard to Lost Boys.
The Edward Herman.
Your Edward Herman double feature.
Yes, the Edward Herman double feature. And it's just a movie. And then I actually watched the whole thing.
Sure.
And then loved it. And I feel like it's been a movie that is on rotation throughout the year ever since.
At our home, yes.
Yeah.
I do feel like it was probably on definitely was on Joe Bob Briggs. I feel like it was probably on Up All Night. Do you remember Up All Night with Rhonda Shear?
Yes.
Oh, man, I love that. It was probably on Up All Night with Rhonda Shear. Yeah. The whole horror comedy thing, it's interesting because it is a genre unto itself. You know, there are some horror movies that have a little bit more comedic elements in them and that just make them a little bit more fun, like even something like Fright Night. You know, it's a little bit more fun. Gremlins is a little bit more on the lighter side. But this doesn't lean as far into the comedy as like something like Ghostbusters, which I feel like is a comedy first.
Yeah, comedy first.
That has sci-fi
Some horror
elements.
elements.
Yeah,
exactly.
But this is definitely... And Joel Schumacher even talks about it on the commentary, you know, mixing comedy and horror and all of that. But I don't feel like it's just a straight horror movie because there is so much, like, fun stuff in it. And there are... The crazy thing is that the kids in this movie, I just always felt like... I'm a couple of years younger than the Coreys, like maybe 5 years younger than
They were
the
probably
Coreys.
born in like 73, 74 or so.
To me, as a kid, they were always older teenagers, you know, in those movies. License to Drive came out, and I was just like in love with that movie. I thought License to Drive was so fun. And I thought that was exactly what it was going to be like when I got my driver's license, and it wasn't. But to find out that Corey Haim was 13.
That's what Joel said on the commentary. He was
That's
13 years
insane.
old.
13.
That's crazy. Doesn't he feel like he's about 15 or 16?
Yeah, he feels older.
He reads about 15,
And
16.
especially
but
Corey Feldman, like coming off of
Yeah.
the Goonies that came out in what, like 80...
Goonies came out in 85.
85,
Yeah.
And then...
shot in 84. So
and-
he like definitely went through puberty in that year in between shooting.
Well, Stand By Me was in between, and you can even see the progression of like Corey Feldman from Goonies to Stand By Me. You're like, okay, he's aged, and then in this, he's just like a full grown. Like,
Yeah.
Wait, so Stand By Me was right before Lost Boys?
It had to have been right
So he
before
went
Lost
back
Boys.
to back with Kiefer Sutherland.
Hey, there you
in
go.
two films,
Yeah. Kiefer Sutherland scaring the shit out of young Pete 2
And
movies
also,
in a row.
like,
Oh, God, he was so creepy.
and
in
also
Stand
like
By Me.
Keith Sutherland
man,
and also
he's-
Jason Patrick being like 19 and 20 years old. Like those
That's
look
insane.
like grown ass men. Those look like adults.
Kiefer to me looks like he's in his 20s, maybe early 20s. Jason Patrick full on looks 34 years old.
Serving beefcake in this movie.
And was around 19. Insane.
Yeah, he was 19. See, he read like 24, 25 to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are certain things about Corey Haim, his character, that make him feel a little bit younger. Certain just parts that are just built into the script. I mean, him just taking that bath, not being the least of which.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that.
Make him seem a little bit
Oh,
younger. Because even... What's Jason Patrick's character's name?
Michael.
Even Michael is just like, all right, it's time for your bath.
Yeah.
It's time for your bath.
Yeah, he tells him,
like,
go take your bath.
like
Well-
tell your little brother that.
And
Not
I
like-
can probably go into a little more of why that is when
Oh,
you go
yes.
into the production history of this movie.
Yeah.
So the film was originally set to be directed by Richard Donner, Dick Donner, with the screenplay by Janice Fisher and James Jeremias, and was modeled after Donner's recent hit The Goonies from 1985. And the film, back when they first conceived it, was envisioned to be more of a juvenile vampire adventure with like 13 and 14-year-old vampires. And the Frog Brothers were supposed to be chubby 8-year-old Boy Scouts. And the character of Star, played by Jamie Gertz, was supposed to be a young boy. So Dick Donner committed to other projects, one of them being Lethal Weapon, that he was also doing for Warner Brothers. He couldn't do the movie, so Joel Schumacher was approached to direct the movie. And Joel was very hesitant about the movie because Joel didn't really do children's movies. So he insisted on making the movie if it was more aimed at young adults, and he brought in a new screenwriter, Jeffrey Boehm, like to retool the script and to raise the ages of all the characters. And he kind of just wanted to make a cool teenage vampire movies, which is pretty interesting because when you look at the history of vampire movies, I mean, I can't really think of a teenage vampire movie off the top of my head before Lost Boys that was anything like this. Can you think of anything, Billy?
Nothing comes to mind. I mean, all the vampire movies before Lost Boys, everybody was older. You think about things like Dracula, Blackula, the Hunger. They all come off much older.
Yeah, for sure.
And even like Salem's Lot was a scary vampire movie.
Yeah,
wasn't there little kid vampires in that?
And
there was
little kid vampires in that too.
Yeah, like preteen, teen vampire. Like one.
I was gonna say I can think of like kid vampire movies. Isn't it like a Jonathan Lipnicki, like Littlest Vampire?
The Littlest Vampire. Yeah,
that idea is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Kid vampires, and was this movie going to be aimed at children?
Yeah.
It would have just been like a weird like Disney Nickelodeon kind of like.
I mean, would it have been something like Monster Squad?
Yeah, but none of those kids were vampires. They were like vampire hunters.
They were vampire hunters. They were monster hunters.
Yeah.
Well, obviously Joel didn't think that idea would work.
Good on you.
So
Joel Schumacher.
He retooled the script, and what we got was Lost Boys. And then when you add Joel Schumacher into the mix, like, because he had just done St. Elmo's Fire, and just Joel is a very theatrical director.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just really knows how to put on a show.
Sure.
And
he had not done Flatliners yet, right?
Yes,
that was next.
I think that was his next movie after this.
And he kept Kiefer for that.
Yeah,
brought in Julia.
And yeah, and you're right. If you catch certain moments of this movie, you can still see the remnants of that previous script. I think that they probably just ended up keeping the family unit from that script of a single recently divorced mother moving to Santa Carla, not
Santa Cruz.
Not Santa Cruz. That she's like recently divorced and she goes and lives with her father.
Sure.
And that's probably like the structure of that original script.
And then they encounter like the kid vampires.
Kid vampires.
So weird.
Be fascinating to read the script if it ever floats on, like, ends up online somewhere.
Get your hands on like a first draft just to see what that could have been.
It's got to be floating around Reddit somewhere. Listeners, find us a link. Has anybody been to the Santa Cruz Boardwalk?
We have not.
No, it is a goal.
I've been there, but it's been like 20 years. Like, it was like literally 20 years.
We were discussing that probably the Santa Cruz Boardwalk now is just very ultra sanitized. It's probably like the Santa Monica Boardwalk, that it's just so family friendly now and you really don't get a gutter punk vibe to it like this anymore.
I don't know. I haven't been in so long. We'd have to.
I don't know.
Yeah, we'd have to find out exactly what happened to it. But it's probably very different from how it is here. I don't know that there are like adult soft rock bands playing like on the sand.
Yeah,
on a given night.
You mean it's not littered with 80s punks wearing leather jacket and foot-high mohawks?
You know,
I love those
montage.
I love that beginning montage. It's my favorite scene of the movie.
It's so cool because it's clearly just like they went out to the streets of Santa Cruz and were just like, shoot it. Just find me some weirdos. Show me who lives on this beach.
When they do a really good job of grabbing you right from the beginning, because you get that tracking shot over the water, and immediately you're into Cry Little Sister, and it's just like, oh.
Well, yeah, in like the first 5 minutes of this goddamn movie, you set up your antagonist, you set up that they're vampires, and then you set up Sam and Michael.
Yeah.
And their mom. It's just like that is the first 5 minutes of the movie.
And it's done really smoothly as well. Like, I feel like so many movies now take so much time trying to introduce their characters.
Yeah.
You spend so much time on that. When you've got something like Lost Boys, just this is how it's done.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting as a kid, but also frustrating. But now I can see that it's like an artistic choice that first scene of the movie, or that you don't see the vampires.
Yeah.
That you don't know who's ripping the roof off this car. You know, you don't see who's doing it. You don't see them flying. There's not shots of them just like flying around with their arms out, you know, flapping their wings or anything. But as a kid, I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, I want to see, you know, you want the visual. But like now it's this cool choice.
Yeah, the idea is there. And you might know who the vampire is, but it could be anyone.
And part of that choice was that this was a very modest movie for Warner Brothers, and they just couldn't afford it.
Yeah,
so
sure.
That's sort of how they had to work around with it.
Yeah,
and I think it's pretty successful. Yeah,
special effects at the time probably would have been kind of weird.
And I think I read somewhere that this movie filmed in like 3 weeks.
Holy
sure.
shit.
3 weeks.
Holy shit. That's insane.
It's insane that the movie is as good as it is.
I mean, they got some crazy talent to do this movie. The director of photography, Michael Chapman, who worked with Scorsese a lot. He shot goddamn Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. They got an early Thomas Newman to do the score.
Yeah.
And it's a very elevated movie about young people.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I think the movie was probably pretty tight once they got to filming. It went through so many different iterations,
Yeah.
script form, directors.
Yeah. This was also one of the first times that I had seen a vampire movie. And again, it's been around for so long that I was so young when I first saw it. But to me, it was just such a... it was interesting to see vampires that could, like... They would walk as human in one scene, and then they would do that. They would vamp out, essentially.
Yeah.
And have the Buffy vampire face.
Which is a big inspiration for Joss Whedon and why he used something exactly like that in Buffy.
Yeah. And the makeup was really interesting. As a kid, though, again, I keep going back to like me as a kid watching this, but you know, the first time you see something really influences how you remember it. You know what I mean? Like I always think about if you hear a cover of a song first and then you hear the original after, so many times people are just like, well, I like the cover version better. Well, that's the first one you heard. But, like, the original's so much better. But so, like, to me as a kid, I just remember thinking, like, it would have been just cool to see Kiefer as a vampire just looking like himself because he was so, like, so hot. It's like young, like 21-year-old Kiefer Sutherland, you know? But I get the idea of, like, the vamping out and having, you know, the ridges and the crazy face and all that. I thought that his gang... As a kid, I was just like, I was fascinated. I was obsessed.
Oh, same here.
I was repulsed. Every emotion. Their costumes are out of control.
We should probably go into all of the Lost Boys.
Well, I mean, Marco's costume alone.
Oh my god.
Oh, cute Marco.
Oh, with that long curly
mullet.
Played by Alex Winter from
curly
Bill
mullet.
and Ted.
It's like, looks like it's just sewn into the back of his head. It's just like from the neck up, he's Bill S. Preston, and from the neck down, it's just like.
And I feel like he's got some really good head movements in this movie too, where you can see the mullet
like
swing.
He's working those extensions,
and he just has that beautiful baby face too. That Alex Winter, like those Alex Winter bedroom eyes.
He's got sad eyes. Oh, Alex Winter. He was another one that was like a child. When
he was probably just
movie.
shy of over 18 when they got him.
All of them. We can't forget Twister.
Jamie Gertz.
Square Pegs. Jamie Gertz.
Yes.
She's so good.
Mm-hmm.
When Star burst onto the scene, I thought that's all I ever wanted is some just wispy, oh my god, just hippie woman.
Yes. She's just wearing these like gypsy like skirts.
Yes.
I feel like something that everyone does really well in this film is they kind of stare into your soul, you know, a little bit.
Yeah. But what a choice though, too, like to go for Jamie Gertz as like the kind of half vampire, like ethereal.
She's like the windy figure of the Lost Boys.
Yes,
too.
Yeah.
If we're gonna kind of go with J.M. Barrie imagery or themes, she's the windy of these boys.
And I think if it's not maybe the original script, they all had Lost Boys names from J.M. Barrie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting.
And there's like kind of flyers throughout the movie when they're at the boardwalk for missing children.
Kids,
so that's kind of a theme that's kept up all throughout.
They set that up in the montage of the footage of actual like people of Santa Cruz. They like drop in the
So Joel said on the commentary that his original idea was like a surf blonde, like this wafy girl that just hung out on the beach. And Jamie Gertz had made that crazy apocalypse movie with Jason Patric.
Solar Babies?
Solar Babies, and they had also done some stage work. And he brought her onto the movie.
Yeah. Well, he suggested her to Joel heavily. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's an interesting choice. She's got dark hair. Like in the 80s, like I feel like blonde was where it was at. Yeah.
Like a Daryl Hannah type.
Yeah. So Jamie Gertz, and she's really good. Like her performance is it's a little wacky, but
I mean, it's a wacky movie too.
But it's a wacky movie. Her little intro with Michael, her little meet cute is amazing. Oh yeah, we've got a little bit of that. Where are you?
If you want your hair pierced, I'll do it.
What's your name?
Star.
Oh, your folks too, huh?
What do you mean?
Ex-hippies. I came this close to being called Moonbeam or Moonchild. Something like that. But Star's great. I like Star.
Me too.
I'm Michael.
Michael's great. I like Michael.
She's using her throat voice throughout this entire movie. Star.
Just that line. Michael's good. I like Michael.
I like Michael. When we saw this at Cinespia at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, people lost their mind when he asked her name and she said,
We did at least.
Star. I feel like everybody just like, woo! We laughed at that. But it was, she's great. We love Jamie Gertz from Square Pegs.
Have you seen any of Square Pegs with Sarah Jessica Parker? And it's funny because how she's used on Square Pegs, she's a very teacher's pet, uptight girl that's always like, she's very strictly by the rules.
Yeah.
She's always talking about their adopted orphan from Guatemala. Rosarita.
Yeah. That show's really great. That was a launching board for many young stars of the 80s. It's such a time capsule. It looks like Party City, like 80s Halloween costume wall. Like, but it was really made in the 80s.
But
everyone, did they make this now?
Everyone looks super fucking rad though in it though.
Yeah, they do. They look really
I think
cool.
somehow Square Pegs just kind of passed me by.
Yeah.
You know, I don't quite know how that happened, but like 80s television, Family Matters. There were so many good shows, you know.
I was going to say, I don't know how I came across
Family
it.
Matters, Family Ties.
Family Ties.
I came home with the...
But Family Matters is also great. Urkel, come on.
It is, yeah.
I came home with it on DVD.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, it's from 82. In 1982, I wasn't watching TV. I was watching, like, Mom's boob. You like... So I feel like I must have caught it. It must have been my older sister. We had to have been watching it, and it must have been, you know what it was? The Orange County Cable Access, KDOC, in Southern California, would show cool shit. They would show the first, like, 3 seasons of SNL, like, with Bill Murray and Gilda Radner and Dan Aykroyd, like, weeknights at, like, 6 p.m., and so we would watch that. They would show Letterman reruns, and I'm pretty sure that's where we would watch Square Pegs. So my sister and I were just watching weird late 70s and early 80s TV in, like, the late 80s on public access. Interesting. It shaped my life.
Yeah, and if 82, then I guess it makes sense why it kind of passed me by.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
so young.
And I don't remember it ever being on reruns, you know, not in L.A. at least.
There are a couple shows that people talk about from the 80s that I've just never seen, like Square Peg, Silver Spoons.
Now I do remember. I am old enough for Silver
I
Spoons.
never saw Silver Spoons. Yeah.
Oh man, that's got Ricky Schroeder. Rick, call us. We've got a seat waiting for you, babe. You're our next guest. All right, so we've got Star, we've got Alex Winter, we've got
Alex Winter is Marco, Kiefer Sutherland is David, with just this beautiful bleached out mullet. I mean, I've had my hair bleached out before, and I definitely know what it's like to get hair that white.
Don't you think Alex Winter is just like a towhead? He's just as blonde in Bill and Ted.
Well, no, I'm talking about Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, Kiefer's
hair is almost white.
That is white. That is
that will
out.
definitely
right.
that will definitely burn your scalp and make you shed a tear.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
There is also Billy Worth, who was a male model at the time. He plays Dwayne. He's the one with the flowing raven hair. The one with like the supermodel face.
Sure.
And then there is Brooke McCarter as Paul.
And Brooke is the blonde with the straight hair.
Yes.
With that big, like, 80s rocker hair.
Yes, he definitely has, like, a hair metal haircut.
Yeah, for sure.
Who we lost not that long ago.
Yes, he died in 2015.
2015, yeah, he's gone.
I feel like all of these guys kind of work the rounds of comic book conventions, too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Maybe not Keither.
No, Kiefer is not doing comic book conventions. He's got that 24 cash.
That's syndication money.
Yes, exactly.
And, yeah, I just remember being a little kid and just being fascinated with all of these guys, just because they're introduced as the cool bad boys.
Yeah.
And the whole like struggle with Michael is you want to fit in with them. It's like the theme of like peer pressure. Like you want to get in with the cool kids.
The interesting thing, though, is that like no kids ever dress like this. This is not real style. This is like, you know, the stylist of the movie like making a choice.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at the Lost Boys versus someone like Michael, who's very toned down.
Oh, yeah.
The whole movie, he's just wearing blue jeans, a white T-shirt.
Yeah.
About the most like he gets to them is a leather jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he specifically goes out to buy. And that's a cool leather jacket. It's not quite a motorcycle jacket, but it's like it's getting there. But yeah, these guys, those jackets just have like pins and studs and tassels and like
it's very like neo-punk.
Yeah, for sure. And then who's the littlest vampire? There's the little Laddie. And Laddie's full on wearing like a drum major, like like a full on like circus. He looks like Timothy from like Dumbo, with the drum, you know,
slightly oversized.
Yeah. That's an interesting, like, they don't really ever talk about Laddie and, like, what the deal is. She's just kind of left to figure it out.
He sort of came with Star.
Well, she's taking care of him, at least.
Yeah, I feel like they got Star to take care of Laddie.
Yeah.
But Laddie's also only half.
Mm-hmm.
So Star, Michael, and Laddie are only half vampires.
Yeah.
Rewatching this movie for the millionth time...
Yeah.
The passage of time in this film is very unclear.
Is it a long weekend? Is it a month? Is it like a year? I don't know.
Well, you go from the scene where he's, you know, chasing after David on his motorcycle, and then you know, when he falls through the mist onto his bed, he's wearing the same clothing, he's dirty, but then he has this conversation with his mother, and she's like, "You sleep all day, you're gone all night." It's like, but how? It's one night. Has this been happening for several nights?
Yeah.
So the time is very unclear in this film.
It's like the end of the summer. It's like a mid-August set movie.
Yeah, she keeps threatening him school. Things are going to change when school starts.
Oh yeah. And is he going to college?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it college? I think.
Is it an undercover cop situation? Is he going to high school?
Is he actually a narc? I don't know.
Is this a Jump Street kind of a situation?
It's a tie into Jump Street.
I love that. This house that they live in with Grandpa.
I mean, you kind of are shocked from this house, but I mean, I kind of grew up around houses like this, so I find it very normal just to be walking around and seeing
now that I've been to your
life-size lion mount. A whole like wall of just antler sheds.
After spending time at Lori and Don's, I feel like I'm fully accustomed to the amount of taxidermy in this house.
I knew taxidermists growing up too, so I definitely knew what it was like to walk through the garage and seeing like a skull sitting in like bleach or something to take off all of the the skin.
When they open those French doors and we see Grandpa's like taxidermy room.
Oh, I love Grandpa.
It's lit so crazy.
Yeah.
There's some scenes in this movie that are lit like
just ridiculous. You got a whole scene that's just bathed in.
Yeah, way too good. This movie doesn't need to look as good as it does.
I mean, they got Scorsese's camera guy.
Yeah. And this taxidermy scene, as a kid, not knowing what that is, I'm just like, what is going on? What is this room? Why is there like red lights everywhere?
And you see taxidermy without the fur or skin on it. And it just looks super creepy. You just see like the little bulging eyes.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And like the form.
Interesting.
I mean, I'm kind of with Sam on this. It's creepy. I don't want it in my room.
What did he keep giving him? What did he give him the first thing that he gave him?
It's like a muskrat.
Give him a little mount, yeah.
I believe that is a golden marmot. That is like a rock chuck.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And Grandpa, I love this note that Grandpa keeps giving him stuff, and he keeps just like put in the closet, or just like, nope.
Yeah,
you're out of here. Okay,
the Grandpa from Blossom.
Yeah, he's the Grandpa. He was Buzz on
Love
Blossom.
Him in this movie.
Really?
Yeah.
You should play Grandpa's opening scene because it's also one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Is it true that Santa Carla's the murder capital of the world?
There's some bad elements around here.
Wait a second, let me get this straight. Are you telling me that we moved to the murder capital of the world? Are you serious, Grandpa?
Well, now let me put it this way. If all the corpses buried around here was to stand up all at once, we'd have one hell of a population problem.
Great, Dad.
Now, on Wednesdays, when the mailman brings a TV guide, sometimes the address label is curled up just a little like that. Now, you'll be tempted to tear it off. Don't. You'll only wind up ripping the cover, and I don't like that. And stay out of here.
Wait. You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Oh,
it cut off.
It cut off. Oh, well. You read the TV guide, you don't need TV. I love the TV guide. We used to have a subscription.
And would you ever want to pull off the sticker?
No!
Because then you would rip it.
You'd rip the whole front. I mean, the sticker was a pain in the butt because it covered, stuff, but they put a little box there for the sticker. They built it into the, to the cover. Growing up, our grandmother lived with us. And so we had a subscription to the TV guide that came to the house once a week.
With your National Enquirer.
With the National Enquirer. Grandma. Love it. She loved the crosswords. But she also loved the horoscopes.
And then you could catch up on like your Burt Reynolds and Lonnie Anderson cover stories that were always on the Enquirer.
Let me tell you this. I read the TV guide articles. Because the whole front, there was a section in the front of articles. Full color, fabulous color photos. TV Guide was the shit. And he's right. It had the descriptions of every episode.
Yeah. Whatever show you wanted to watch, you'd go and they'd give you a description of that episode. I loved it.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
And now TV Guide's like a magazine size.
It's magazine format.
Which is so interesting.
And it probably only comes out weekly. Or no, probably like monthly.
Yeah.
You mean like Entertainment Weekly?
Yeah, Entertainment Monthly.
It's going to be Entertainment Quarterly pretty soon. EQ.
Just entertainment.
Yeah, I love TV Guide. Grandpa's absolutely right. But, I mean, I wouldn't be satisfied with just the TV Guide. I also like the TV Guide because their crossword puzzle... Okay. Hardness, crossword puzzle-wise, it goes, Enquirer's at the bottom.
I could only handle the People.
Then People.
Yep.
Then TV Guide. And then straight up New York Times. I could do a TV Guide crossword puzzle.
People magazine's crosswords would be like Lost Boys actor, first name Keither. Like fill in the last name.
Well, I'm not a crossword puzzle aficionado by any means, but I could do a TV Guide.
This scene very smartly sets up Grandpa as sort of a red herring character. You know that this is someone that has a lot of information for the story. That he knows way more about Santa Carla than these main characters do.
Yeah.
So he's just always there.
Yeah, and I thought about going back when I watched it this time around, knowing that information, looking to see if Grandpa ever went out at night. And he does.
Yeah.
But maybe that would have been a dead giveaway.
Sure.
So he's just sort of this red herring of the movie that you kind of think in your back pocket, could it be Grandpa? I don't know. Could Grandpa be the head vampire? I remember kind of thinking that when I first watched it.
Sure.
Do you think that there's
he's going off on these mystery dates?
There's like this badass backstory with like Grandpa being a vampire hunter.
Has Grandpa encountered Edward Herman? In the past, do they have a history?
Because there is that scene where are you having company for dinner? And then there's a shot of him in the doorway looking at him.
Yeah, he's watching from afar,
and he has like his medical thing with like the big circle,
doctor metal circle,
and he's got the sliding doors. And he's watching, and he closes.
So Grandpa kind of knows.
Yeah,
interesting. This whole thing about the head vampire. All right. Okay, so we got to talk about vampire rules. Because this movie has a lot of vampire rules, and I think this might have been the first time I was introduced to inviting them in. And then,
I feel like I knew that going into it.
Yeah, but I mean, in 1987, I was 9, so I didn't have that many vampire rules in my notebook.
The vampire rules are so out there in what they're going to follow and what they're not going to follow. I mean, if you go back to like old Bram Stoker Dracula, there's even a rule, and they don't really address it too much in any of the films, but in the book they address it briefly, of vampires crossing running water.
Ah,
Like that can be done.
Interesting.
Sure.
And I know I feel like, you know, some of the explanation for like reflections is because like mirrors used to be backed with silver.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us, Billy, about this whole head vampire, half vampire situation and where you see that? Because I feel like this might be one of the only places.
Yeah. As far as like the head vampire, like the rules established with the head vampire,
Yeah.
I've never seen that before or after
Right.
in any sort of vampire lore. Usually something like this is associated with werewolves. You kill the werewolf that turned you and you're set free from the curse.
Yeah.
Never been used with vampires before, so I found that really interesting.
Yeah.
I've got my one bone to pick with this movie is I don't like flying vampires.
Sure.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like to think of my vampires flying around like Superman.
Yeah.
Allison asked me, she's like, well, what if they turn into a bat? I'm like, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
fine.
okay.
Can't Lestat fly?
Lestat can fly.
He can fly.
In an interview?
Yeah, but he's like the only one.
Yeah.
Or can he just sort of like jump really high and he just kind of floats there?
No, I think he can fly.
I think he can straight up fly.
We just recently did a full rewatch of True Blood, and Eric just flies around constantly. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's every time it drives me nuts.
That's also just kind of lazy screenwriting, too.
Yeah.
There was a shot in True Blood with Evan Rachel Wood when she had like this vampire fight with somebody, and they did this weird thing where she like flew up straight up, and it was like, whoa, wire work.
It was a season finale where she was fighting Bill.
Yeah.
And it was this weird slow motion Matrix thing where they both went up and got into like fighting stance.
Yeah.
It was so weird.
I'll never forget how odd that looked.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. The only other time I remember a head vampire situation is in the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode.
Yes,
which is
right.
Which is the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
And you got to kill the head vampire, and they thought it was Mr. Burns, but it was actually Grandpa? I think it was Grandpa.
I think it was Grandpa.
Yeah. Because they killed Mr. Burns, but it didn't turn back Bart. And it was because Grandpa was actually the head vampire. Was that not a thing in Salem's Lot? No.
I don't remember.
Is it in... I mentioned it earlier. Fright Night. I think they mentioned something about it in that.
They mention it to save Ed.
Yeah.
And then later his girlfriend.
The girl, yeah. Marcy Darcy. From Married with Children.
You know what? Yes. I now thinking about because it does work.
Yeah.
When they kill him, she turns human.
She turns back.
Yeah.
Ed.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
We can't talk.
I know there's not that many.
We can't talk too much
instances of
about
it.
Fright Night because I have a feeling I have booked a guest for Fright Night.
Ooh.
So we will be talking about it eventually.
Okay.
You know I get jealous anytime you guys talk about vampires.
I know.
Right? And I know I can't be on every vampire episode, but I do sit in my car and I scream at my phone sometimes.
When we're not getting the deets right. That's why I wanted to talk about that, because I know that's such, like, that rule in particular, it sticks out in this movie because it's such a big plot point.
And you are right, yeah. The Fright Night thing is like one of the only other times in film that I can think of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than that, they seem to follow some basic vampire
Garlic.
rules.
You can't invite them in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Paul tells him that garlic don't do shit.
Right.
When he throws the garlic water at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, garlic don't do shit. And he said, holy water. So the garlic, they're just going on a hunch in this film. Yeah.
Because they feed garlic to Edward Herrmann.
Yeah.
And he eats it. He's raw garlic, and he's just like, oh, it's a lot because it's raw. But he's not, like, repulsed by it or anything.
You could see Edward Herrmann's reflection, though.
Can you?
So maybe the rules are a little different.
We'll see, the rules
for head vampires
might be different there for head vampires because he does tell them that you lose all power when you invite them in.
Oh, sure.
So,
and he was invited, so maybe,
Paul specifically says the thing about the garlic. But as far as the reflection, I take that from him being invited in.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Maybe they weren't sure of the rules.
Yeah.
I love that Edward Herrmann in this movie is like a small business owner. I mean, he's doing quite well for himself.
Your dream job, owning the video store.
My dream job,
on a
that
boardwalk.
he walks around in like cotton suits,
Those
like Miami Vice style linen suits.
Those like shouldered power suits.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
He's got some like shoulder pad, like duster coats, but that are so 80s.
Oh, the fashion in this film.
Oh, my God.
And like thinking about his small business and just his life in general. What is his life? When he invites her back to his house for dinner later in the film, I wrote there's so much neon in his house.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And he has Thorn.
Yes.
The Hounds of Hell.
Hounds of Hell.
I like that of when you're a vampire, you have a ferocious dog to protect you.
Yeah.
I buy that.
Well, you got to have somebody there all day, you know?
You got to have a daytime protector.
You're vulnerable.
Yeah. Well, that's straight out of Dracula as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he in a coffin in that house during the day? We don't know.
No, I think that he has like a nice
In a bed.
He's got silk satin sheets.
He has like
sheets.
he has
Satin
like
sheets.
a
Yeah.
bedroom.
Sheets, yeah.
He has like a bedroom
sure they're black.
furnished by like
Yeah.
the Sharper
Yeah.
Image or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the rest of his house. He definitely does. He's
Waterbed.
very of the times.
Yeah. I don't know if a vampire would risk a waterbed, though. There's a lot of sharp stuff going on.
Yeah, what if he has a bad dream, rolls
Yeah.
over a fang, punctures its whole thing?
Or like nails.
Those
you never
nails.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the idea is that Michael and Sam come to Santa Carla, and to them, Santa Carla is just like this little podunk beach town. And like you said, Michael's a little bit more subdued.
They moved
He's-
from Phoenix.
He's just, you know, a jeans and t-shirt kind of guy. He's got his cool Ray-Bans when, like, he gets a little bit more vamped
It's
out.
he has a very like Brando quality about him.
He's got, like, the...
Or maybe a little so Jim from Rebel Without a Cause.
Well, he's got this very, like, cocky, kind of half smile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sam being, like, this young teenager...
Oh, we need to talk about Sam.
Oh, my God.
Oh, there's so much to
There's
unpack.
so
with Sam.
I feel like
much
Sam is probably
going
the
on.
reason why we're doing this movie on this show.
Okay, I mean, Sam's bedroom alone. But, okay, so Sam is kind of introduced as like a fashion victim.
That's what
right?
they say is fashion
specifically
victim.
called a fashion victim by
he's called out as that
by one of the
and
Frog
he's,
Brothers.
Like he dresses in like these pastel dusters.
Yeah, he's also wearing linen like
Mm-hmm.
overcoats.
That first time we see him in the comic shop, he's wearing this like beachwear trench coat.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, and I guess the idea is, okay, we're going to the boardwalk. That's where all the kids are. So I'm going to wear like my coolest outfit or whatever. But he fully has a pompadour. Like no teenager in the 80s besides Ducky had this hair. Like it is such a choice.
Yeah.
That pompadour is like such a choice. And it's like he is sitting in this bathroom with a round brush and a blow dryer, because that's the only way you're going to get that pompadour. It was with this round brush, curling it in and like making this duck's ass like haircut. It's amazing. I love it. His bedroom is out of control.
You get that beefcake photo of Rob Lowe.
Oh yeah, the Rob Lowe poster,
the Rob Lowe
with the abs
poster. Yep.
Okay, so there's a Molly Ringwald poster.
And Rob Lowe had just done St. Elmo's Fire with Joel.
Yeah. So Joel says that that's his nod to Rob Lowe because he was a breakout star in that movie and was so huge, you know, as a teen heartthrob. So we're going to include this image.
Side note, we just rewatched a little bit of St. Elmo's Fire. That movie is insane. And I would recommend to go back and revisit it because it is bananas.
Yeah, and I don't think I've watched that movie in 20 plus years. Yeah.
So crazy.
Go back and revisit it.
It's such a product of its time. It's got like... the whole premise is that they're a year out of college.
They're like 24 years old.
They're 23, maybe. And like half of them have established careers and the other half are like waiting tables and like being rock musicians. And it is so like capitalist, like money, like obsessed. The whole idea is that like you need to focus on your career, and if you're 25 and are not like a hedge fund broker or married to one, then you just wasted your
You're
whole
just
life.
a trash person with
Yeah.
Rob Lowe. You're playing your sax at like the dive bar.
It is crazy. The values of this movie are so like out of this world. Different time.
Mm-hmm.
Reagan era, man. But back to Sam. He's got this relationship with Michael because
you always notice this from movies around this time. Very touchy-feely sibling relationships.
These kids are very handsy.
Yeah, they're running down the stairs, pushing each other, touching each other.
Yeah,
They're
arms
like,
around each other.
Yeah, arms like hanging off of each other, especially when Grandpa's giving them the tour.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
so close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Physically.
Goonies was a lot like that, too. Those kids are really handsy with each other. But yeah, I don't know. That's just...
It very much comes off like Family Dick now.
Oh, Jesus.
If you know, like the gay porn family dick. But yeah.
Look, do yourself a favor. If you know, you know. So Sam eventually makes it to the Boardwalk comic book shop because we have to introduce the Frog Brothers. The other Corey Feldman, who I cannot get over Corey Feldman's line delivery in this movie.
Oh, yeah. He's very like, ugh, everything's so deep.
Is he just doing like a
intense.
Stallone impression the entire time?
Well, I read somewhere that Schumacher basically told him he wanted his character to be an amalgamation of all those 80s action heroes. So he told him his homework was to go home to watch Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and just be that guy. And man, does he deliver with the headband and this intensity when he delivers all of his lines.
Yeah, because the clothing is one thing. It's like, okay, these guys...
Well, that's costume design.
Yeah.
I get that, yeah.
And I love the idea that... They're brothers. They don't look like brothers, but they're brothers. And I love the idea that I'm assuming their parents are the sleeping stoners.
The two stoners, yeah. Which I think I might have only noticed for the first time like a couple years ago.
Yeah, totally. But I knew they were there, but I never put two and two together that, well, they obviously own this place because the Frog Brothers, how would they own
But I like to think that like the Frog Brothers are doing the books and making sure all the taxes are paid, making sure like their lease is like paid on time.
Yeah.
I've got so many questions about the Frog Brothers. One of the things that popped out to my mind today, when you watch this movie with like an analytical eye, things become so much more clear. Like I thought about it, the comic book shop, and he gives them the Destroy All Vampires, Kill All Vampires comic book, and he's like, if you need us, you can reach us. Our phone number's on the back. I'm like, who's distributing these comics for the Frog Brothers? They're full color comics. Who's the writer? Who's the artist? Did Alan write? Is Edgar the artist? Like,
is this a zine? Did they just make this themselves?
Is it a local thing? And everybody in Santa Carla has the number for these vampire killers? Who is your distributor? What's their rate?
Yeah, it's that kind of stuff is kind of insane. But it's great. I mean, their whole thing is that they see Sam and they're just like, oh, here's like this big city like chump that we're going to like make a fool of. But he actually knows what he's talking about when it comes to like these comics, right? Because he kind of puts them in their place with like this whole Superman thing that he... I have that clip. Oh, you have the clip? Let's see.
Got a problem, guys?
Just scoping your civilian wardrobe.
Pretty cool, huh?
For a fashion victim.
Listen, buddy, if you're looking for the diet frozen yogurt bar, it went out of business last summer.
Actually, I'm looking for a Batman number 14.
That's a very serious book, man.
Only 5 in existence.
4, actually. I'm always looking out for the other 3. Look, you can't put the Superman number 77s with the 200s. They haven't even discovered red kryptonite yet. And you can't put the number 98s with the 300s. Laurie the Mars hasn't even been introduced.
Where the hell are you from? Krypton?
Phoenix, actually. But lucky me, we moved here.
The Diet Frozen Yogurt Bar.
Just the line delivery. Phoenix, actually.
But,
I mean, the Coreys sort of ruled the 80s at this time.
Well, this is the first 2 Coreys film. Correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first one with them together.
Did you ever watch the Lifetime made-for-television movie about the Coreys?
Oh, yes.
Because we have.
Definitely.
So we thought that angle of it was interesting because it's obviously like taken from Corey Feldman's book. So Corey is very much portrayed as like the naive one that just sort of gets corrupted by Corey Haim, which, do you really think that was the case?
Oh, not at all. I mean, there were rumors about drug use on the set and Schumacher making him go back to his hotel and sleep it off.
Yeah, that's insane. You know what else is insane? That the previous work that Corey Haim had done to this movie was Lucas.
Yeah.
He is like a small child in Lucas. Like a little boy. And that was a year before this. That's insane. Because, I mean, we talked about Feldman already and like his like progression from where he came from to this movie. But, I mean, when you're a kid, man, between 12 and 13, that's like a big change. Like, when you're a kid and you see like your parents' friends or whatever, or, like older relatives I haven't seen in a while, and they're like, "You've grown," and you're all shut up. But really, though, you did it. You grew a lot, especially around that age, and we saw it here. But yeah, I feel like this little dynamic between the three of them, it's fun. The Frog Brothers are this whole idea of them being like they're not only like vampire hunters, they fucking hate vampires. They're just like, fuck you like ruining our town.
Well, the indoctrination in this film is like for everyone, for Sam and for Michael. Like as soon as Michael is kind of in that world with the vampires, they immediately challenge him, and he's just kind of brought to their level so quickly. And the same thing with Sam in this scene in the comic shop. They kind of size him up, and then they're immediately like, watch out for vampires. Yeah. This film really wastes no time. And that's also why I think the passage of time in this film is kind of muddy.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, it all goes down on this boardwalk. This is where like Sam meets his allies. This is where Michael meets, Star. Andy meets, what is Kiefer's character's name?
David.
Yeah. We meet David and the Lost Boys. This whole like, okay, he's got like a dirt bike and they've got motorcycles. I mean, I grew up in the city, so we did not have any teenagers on motorcycles. I don't know how different it is out in sticks, but a dirt bike is one thing.
Yeah.
But like just teens riding around on motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back home in Mississippi, I had a dirt bike when I was a teenager, but my group of friends weren't riding around on motorcycles.
No.
And also, could you imagine being a teenager and you could afford like a hog?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like your parents buying you this motor.
But that said, I think what's interesting about the Lost Boys too is that how long do you think that they've been vampires?
That also occurred to me. I never really questioned it, but they don't seem very old.
No,
they
not
don't
at
seem
all.
like old vampires. They seem very of the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times in vampire lore, they have a hard time adapting to the changing time.
Yeah.
And they're very 80s. They're of this
Maybe
time.
they were bitten like the late 70s.
Yeah, I see them being like 60s, 70s for sure. Yeah.
But David's hair, that mullet, so 80s.
I mean, all their hair.
All their hair.
Marco, Paul.
I mean, maybe they just got them.
Paul
Maybe
could
they
have
just got
been-
them outside of like a Twisted Sister concert, and like that's how Edward Herrmann like rounded up all of these boys.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is that it hints at that Edward Herrmann these are sort of like his kids almost.
Yeah, these are his boys.
Yeah.
Or do you think it was one of those things that only Keither's character knew of Edward Herrmann?
Oh, because he was like
because
almost
Star
like the
said
pack
you're
master.
the secret David was trying to protect.
I can see that. Yeah, because up until that point, we all think that David's the head vampire.
Yeah.
Even when they try to tell us it's Max and they hint at Max and it's obviously not Max.
Yeah.
Are you at all familiar with the deleted scenes of this movie?
Sadly, I am not.
So we have watched the deleted scenes of this movie. There's actually, and they're completely finished scenes on the DVD. So it makes me think that they just had to get like an hour and 40 minutes, and they just had to cut some stuff. But they're pretty much finished. And also, the novelization of the movie goes into Michael working as a trash collector for money to buy his leather jacket. It expands the roles of the opposing gang, the Surf Nazis, who are the nameless victims of the vampires in the movie.
The ones who steal the comic books.
The ones who steal the comic books, and also the ones that they're listening to Walk This Way.
Yeah, that they eat around the bonfire. Yeah.
So those are the Surf Nazis, and it includes several tidbits of vampire lore, such as not being able to cross running water and salt sticking to their form. So that was in the original script.
I got to get my hands on this novelization.
Yeah. So, and also,
I'm obsessed with 80s movie novelizations.
I used to be obsessed with novelizations. I'd be like, I'm reading the book.
Yeah. Because they're based on
the shooting scripts.
And there's so much that's cut out.
I've always wanted to get my hands on the Poltergeist novelization because there's little subplots that they cut out of the movie that ended up in the book.
Yeah, I read the novelization for the second Crow film, hoping that it would make that story ultimately better.
I was just listening to City of Angels soundtrack today.
It didn't really improve it too much. Sorry to let you down. But that soundtrack is fantastic.
I was just listening to that whole
now
cover.
what is on the soundtrack of? Oh,
I was listening to the Gold Dust Woman.
Iggy
whole
Pop.
cover.
That's great.
Yeah, that whole cover is great.
Yeah, that was a good song. I remember I got it because of that song.
And then speaking of covers too, one of the first songs we're introduced to in this film is Echo and the Bunnymen doing "People Are Strange," but yet we pay homage to Jim Morrison everywhere in this film. And it's so strange that they're not using that version of the film.
They have a big poster.
Yeah.
Joel Schumacher says in the commentary that he reached out to Echo and the Bunnymen to cover that song.
I mean, maybe they just wanted somebody a little more of the time to do the...
What he actually said was that Ray Manzarek from The Doors was producing Echo and the Bunnymen.
Oh.
So he reached out to him and was like, hey, we would like to use a song. Why don't we get them to cover it? And Ray Manzarek said yes. He asked him specifically.
It was probably a way that
do it.
he might go for it more if it was Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah. I always had a problem with that cover because it's just the song.
Yeah.
It's like exactly
I think there's kind of different arrangements in the middle of it though.
That's the same problem I have with Africa by Weezer.
Oh yeah.
It's the same exact
It's the same song. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
They
What's
did nothing.
the point?
Yeah.
I love that how ingrained music is with films in the 80s, early 90s, even into the early 2000s. Like music was such like a pivotal point of these films. The soundtracks were thought about. The directors were thinking about them on the set, and there's so many great soundtracks. Sometimes soundtracks that surpass films.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, Queen of the Damned.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you this about a cover. Goldust Woman. Come on. Doing something.
That cover's great.
That stretches out. Yeah,
exactly.
the original.
Yeah.
And I mean, the original is so good.
The original is so good, but that whole version it's harder. It
takes you to a different place.
Yeah, it just hits different.
They make it theirs, and So that's what I feel like a cover. If you're going to bother covering a song,
make it your own.
Yeah, do something about it. And that was my big problem with the Echo and the Bunnymen cover of People Are Strange, because I was just like,
it's the same thing.
This is a cover.
I kind of like the Echo and the Bunnymen cover. I'm always disappointed whenever I search the soundtrack on iTunes. You can't listen to it. No, it's blocked. I think you have to buy the album.
Oh, that sucks.
I surprisingly do not own this soundtrack on vinyl.
I don't either.
Well, we own a 45 of...
Oh, we do?
Oh, shit, it's not this. This is Christopher Cross, Arthur's theme.
Yes, we own a 45 of The Lost Boys. We'll have to show it to you before you leave.
Where is it?
I mean,
it's somewhere.
If we're talking about music, can we talk about Tim Capello for a
minute?
minute?
Yes.
I was getting there.
I mean, you talk about being introduced to Sam's allies, to Michael's new family as vampire. That's where the world was introduced to that sax man.
Oh my goodness,
he was Tina Turner's sax man.
I mean, even as like a little straight boy, when you see Tim Capello, you're like, whoa,
like that is a man.
Yeah, like he is huge. He's not necessarily ripped, but he's huge, and he's like oily and covered in chains.
He was ripped like 80s guys were ripped.
Yeah. He's like barrel chested.
He's barrel chested. Yeah. It's just that Hulk Hogan kind of like, oh my God.
But I feel like so many people look at that scene as like, it kind of doesn't fit. Maybe it's funny, but like Tim Capello is like a very accomplished musician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That scene is so crazy. And it became a meme. Like, it's just like...
It's lived on.
It's got legs.
So good.
And it's also 5 minutes long. I won't play the entire thing, but...
I love the crowd just losing their goddamn mind.
They're headbanging
over it.
Yeah.
They're headbanging to saxophone.
And there's that like marquee in the back that just says live.
But you know what though? I feel it. Right now I feel it.
Man.
Like it's
There was something in the 80s having a saxophone player in a band.
INXS.
And INXS had a saxophone player, Clarence Clemens was E Street Band, huge. And it was just part of like, if you're going to have a rock band, you want to be well-rounded, you got to have a sax. And that is just something that has fallen by the wayside in rock music. And I mean, if you're not familiar with the look, he's wearing like a codpiece, like over like pink stretch pants,
Really, like almost like he's you mentioned Hulk Hogan, almost like he's a wrestler.
It's very pro
It almost
wrestling.
looks like it's fishnet mesh.
Yeah.
That his pants are. But yeah, and it's just one of those things that I remember watching this as a little kid and just feeling like, I feel a little tingly somewhere, and I don't know why.
So he's all oiled up. He's got the Michael Bolton hair because it's long and flowy, but it's also male pattern baldness.
A little bit.
Well, it's like slicked back.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see the high.
He's got like the landing strips on each side of the widow's peak going on, but it's in a half pony, in a high low half pony in the back, and like long, and this tank, this whole like stretch pants situation.
He has the audience in the palm of his hand.
He makes such extreme contact with the audience members. He like manhandles that saxophone in one hand while he's pointing at people and like he's like, "You get punked!" Like it's so extreme, this whole scene. But you know what? I love it.
I love it.
I love every
it's so
second
good.
of it.
And I think that we just have Joel to thank for that. That I think that it kind of takes a gay man to stage a scene like that. That like Dick Donner, if he directed this movie, was not going to put that in the movie.
God.
No.
And I think also how that scene is cut. It's when they introduce Star too.
Oh yeah. Well, because you get this woman coming through the crowd against this music, and it's so kind of like ethereal, and she cuts through everything.
It's an iconic character introduction
because everybody's losing their mind, headbanging and all of that, and she's just like wafting through in this like white gypsy skirt and like
and Michael
tank top.
can't take his eyes off
Michael's
of her.
in trance.
Have you seen the YouTube video where they kind of edited it together with Michael and all the looks he's giving to Star? They cut in Tim Capello.
No. I know what I'll be looking up soon.
It's so good. You know what I'm talking about, right, Scott?
Yeah.
It's so good. And I think you showed it to somebody and they were like, why is he looking at him like that? Because it's cut really well. And because they're shots of Michael, and it's almost like he's looking at the camera when he's just like entranced by Star, and they edited that shit so well that it looks like he's looking at him. And I've pulled up a picture of Tim, and he is definitely wearing a jock strap over these stretch pants.
Let me see.
With like a
a
studded belt.
Definitely.
It's
Two
like
belts.
it's
He's
like a
double
black
belting.
jock strap over like pink and purple like stretch pants with multiple studded belts.
He's so shiny.
And he's so shiny. Oh my god. Yeah, like all the little things hanging from the belts over the codpiece.
You know, I saw Tim Capello recently on a talk show.
Oh my god.
Promoting his new album, Blood on the Reed.
Oh shit.
And you know what? He still looks pretty good.
Hey.
He looks pretty good for
Still
his
has
age.
this jacked body.
Yeah, he's still like wide, good look. He's still rocking the long hair.
I love it.
Pulled back in that half pony.
Yeah.
He was wearing a shirt though, sorry.
Oh, too bad. Tina. Just him on tour with Tina. That's kind of amazing.
I think he toured with Tina for like 12 years or something
What?
like that. Yeah.
That's crazy. Man, we listened to that whole 5-minute song. Way to go, Tim. I mean, it's that entrancing.
It's one of the superstars of the soundtrack.
It really is. On a good soundtrack. Yeah. Eddie and the Tide. I'm not familiar with them. There's a lot going on.
There's like a Roger Daltrey song from The Who on it. Well, of course, also Cry Little Sister.
Yeah,
which is kind of just worked into the score of the movie.
Yeah, it is
because
like
it has
part
that
of the score.
because it has that chanting.
Yeah.
That just works underneath scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Is it like a kid's choir singing? Oh, so good. So good.
And I think I've let you borrow my DVD copies of the sequels of these films.
Oh, yeah.
There is a little homage to Tim Capello in the second film whenever the new kids come to Santa Carla. And you see this very overweight man with the half pony wearing the pants and the cod piece and the chains, and he's doing little hip thrusts with the saxophone. It's like, that is not kind.
No.
Why they gotta be that shady to Tim?
Why they gotta do Tim dirty like that? So we haven't even. Oh, we've got a cat going crazy. She needs some.
She's a big
some
fan.
loving.
She's a big fan of the sexy
saxophonist,
sax man.
So we haven't even gotten to like the sunken 1920s like resort,
Yes.
and the cliffs of Santa Carla. That is their lair.
I mean, this is like the music video set of the movie.
This is like a Meatloaf video going on in
with
here.
the fire barrels.
It's very on brand for Joel Schumacher.
Yes.
Too. You get that just this this beautiful soundstage.
It's very
set.
much. It very much gives me the intro, the cue of the Tower of Terror before it became the Guardians of the Galaxy ride.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going Tower of Terror at Disneyland, and it's like this.
I can't. I don't.
You ever been to the lobby?
You don't
though?
like the drops?
No, sorry. I'm not trying to live that life.
Drops
sorry.
are. You're either in or you're out. Yeah,
I'm all the way out.
That's cool. But let me tell you this: the production design on that ride was out of control because the whole idea was that it was a 1920s Hollywood hotel that has been abandoned because of this like fictional accident that happened, and the lobby looks like this with like cobwebs and broken down chandeliers and all that, and this like their lair very much gives me
The
that.
giant Jim Morrison poster because these guys worship the Doors.
Yes. So they've just, I'm sure this is like condemned and they're not allowed to be in there, but they've just decided this is going to be our lair.
And they mention that David mentions that it was a seaside resort that fell in the crack of like an earthquake or something,
the
or
1906
it,
San Francisco
it
earthquake.
caved in.
Yeah. Because that earthquake was fucking gnarly. And I mean, if Santa Carla is actually Santa Cruz, then I'm sure there was some bad damage there as well. So yeah, that tracks. But this is where they start revealing like all of their little glamour tricks, on Michael, which I thought was interesting. Like that was kind of my first introduction to like vampires being able to kind of manipulate people.
Well, because up until this point, I think on film we'd only ever seen the gaze,
Yes.
where you can get them to like do what you want them to do, their desire, but not any sort of manipulation of what they're actually seeing, or feeling.
Yeah,
which is very interesting
and gross.
Yeah.
Chinese takeout container full of maggots.
Ew.
The
maggots. Yeah.
Oh man, where is that?
Are those maggots? Maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. How do they taste?
And the noodles.
Mm-hmm.
It's just noodles, Michael. That's his very like Joe Bluth delivery. Illusion, Michael.
Something I find kind of interesting is if you look overall at this film, besides key scenes like this with David, the vampires don't speak much in this movie.
No.
They don't have a lot of lines.
Yeah. And they're not even they're used very sparingly.
Yeah.
They're only in,
Even Keither, who's like probably third build in this movie, has very minimal lines.
Yeah. And he's probably has the most of all the vampires for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely.
But he's got like not a lot of.
I think most of the other
dialogue.
vampires are just laughing,
Yeah.
chiding, things like that. They're not really delivering full lines.
Yeah, for
except
sure.
for here and there, maybe at the end when they're fighting in the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd never noticed that, and I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, you don't even really think about, and that's another thing with movies like this that we latch on to early on and then just rewatch and rewatch and rewatch. You don't think about it because you know what's going on, and you're not even really like paying attention that hard. But every now and then you'll just be like, I'm going to watch this and really like analyze what's going on. And then you think about these things that you didn't catch or just kind of let go, because they're so familiar.
Yeah, exactly. A film like this becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
When you watch it with critical eyes, you start to pick up on all these things.
And also, I mentioned before about just sort of movies from this time, they didn't feel the need to really explain themselves, that you really don't know what David's intentions are with Michael.
Yeah.
You don't really know like what he wants. Does he want him to be in the gang? Does he want Star to like kill him? You don't really know.
You're given a little bit later on. At first,
Yes.
you have no clue, but later on, you're given a little bit that Michael was supposed to be Star's first.
Yes.
But that's it. But it up until that point, it almost seems like they're using Star as bait.
Yeah, that's it. That's where it gets a little kind of muddy for me.
Yeah, the inclusion of Star and Laddie is a big kind of question mark for me.
Yeah.
I think that he almost sees Michael as a personality that would help balance out his misfit gang, too. Like,
Sure.
you kind of see that?
Yeah, maybe
of, like, why he wants him.
It may be somebody who can be like a second, because Michael
Yeah.
immediately stands up to him. Where I feel
Yes.
like the others are just lackeys. It'll
Yes,
do whatever
exactly.
he wants.
He
Yeah.
almost wants another alpha male to balance it out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, it's not David's gang.
This is very true. Yep. Because Edward Herman wants to
Yeah.
establish a family unit with all of these boys.
the blood-sucking Brady Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as the head vampires, he just does David just have carte blanche to turn whoever into a vampire?
Yeah.
You know, how many vampires are just roaming around Santa Carla because
Right?
David just said, "Oh, that one looks fun."
Yeah. But then also, he is running this video store. Because there's staff there. He hires, Diane Wiest.
And also your favorite from Dream Warriors
And Summer School.
and Summer School.
Yeah,
Yep.
now I can't remember her name. I'm going to feel bad about it, so I'm going to look her up. But yeah, he fully just has a staff of people that he just he
just-
hires, he brings on
just
board.
comes in at night.
And he's just like,
He's the night manager.
and he's just like, are you upselling those M&Ms? Are you upselling that microwave popcorn? It's right by the register. Do I have to tell you this every time?
Come on, Sharon.
We just stumbled on to a Blockbuster training video from the 80s, and it's kind of amazing. It's
Oh, my
on
God.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah. It's great. There's
Another
quite
thing
a
I'll have to
few.
look up on YouTube.
Kelly Jo Minter from Summer School and from Dream Master.
Oh, is she not in Dream Warriors?
No, she's not in Dream Warriors or Dream Master. She's in Dream Child.
Oh, okay.
She's in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Yeah, she is all but cut out of the Lost Boys.
Yeah, she's in the deleted scenes.
She speaks in the deleted scenes. She's there behind the counter
Yeah,
in fleeting moments.
you kind of see her paying attention to the phone call that she
Yeah,
gets.
yes, yeah,
It's
yeah.
I noticed that today when I was watching it. It was like she's just staring at her while she has this intense phone call.
Because that's her coworker.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense if you saw the scene with them interacting. Too.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's also a really creepy cut scene of the movie where Diane Wiest is leaving the video store and David and the gang comes around and circles
yeah.
her right in front of the video store.
On their motorcycles.
And they're looking at her, and then they just drive off.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the head vampire thing.
Yeah.
If David kept that secret from the rest of the gang, do you think they got any kind of inclination or maybe feeling like going into vampire lore when you have a creator, whenever they go into the video store in the beginning, and he's I thought I told you not to come in here.
Yeah.
He also gives David a look, too.
Yeah.
There's got to be... That's got to be in the novelization. Mm-hmm. Got to find it.
I need somebody to find it for me on eBay.
eBay.
I'll pay whatever.
Probably won't be that much. It's got to be on eBay. We'll find it. Well, okay. So, yeah, I feel like the whole ideas of, why they're bringing Michael in, David versus the head vampire and their relationship to the other Lost Boys, maybe we don't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think they waited until he got that sweet earring and they're like, oh, now he's good to go?
Now
Get him.
we know.
Get him. We need him.
I mean, it was also one of the big inspirations why I got an earring.
Oh.
When I was in high school, too, because I wanted to be cool like Michael.
Yeah.
I wasn't that, rock and roll that I had a girl actually do it without the gun.
It's a ripoff. I'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had my ears pierced several times when I was a teenager, and I was never cool enough to have a friend do it. I always went to the mall and
I got
had a little gun.
I got the Claire's gun.
I don't like that Claire's gun,
Which
man. It'll
I
give
know
you a keloid.
Well, I was going to say, I know that it's not supposed to be very good for your ears.
It's not. It'll give you a keloid. I got one in my ear. Give you a keloid.
Listeners,
if
if
you're
you ever
lucky.
want your ear pierced, go to an actual
A piercer.
Yeah, I got 3 done at a Claire's, and I got 2 at a tattoo shop.
Yeah. If you do it at a tattoo shop, listeners, they'll do it with a lance, and it'll go right through. When they do it with a gun, it pokes a hole in your ear, and it can give you major scar tissue inside of your earlobe, and it could cause a keloid scar. And I saw this guy at a bar once, and it was botched.
Ugh.
His he had keloids that looked like he was wearing like earmuffs, and they were like giant like golf ball sized keloids on each of his ears, and you know it was because he got like jacked up piercings. I felt terrible. I saw that on Botched. So gross. Look it up. So yeah, go to a piercer. They'll charge you a little bit more, but it's worth it in the long run.
Definitely worth it.
Coming from people who have real piercings.
Or you could just go see Star.
Or you can see Star. She'll do it for you.
Yeah, because it's a ripoff.
Just get some ice. They did it in Greece.
Yep.
Well, Frenchie also did say there was a lot of blood. So she probably didn't do it right.
I don't think she did it right.
It was the 50s. They didn't know what they were doing. So, all right. What have we missed? We've got like the lair. We've got like we didn't talk about poor Diane Weiss being chased by Thorn.
Oh yeah, great performance. Great performance by Diane Weiss. That it really just speaks to Diane Weiss as an actress. That she won an Oscar for Hannah and Her Sister. She follows it up with this rock and roll vampire movie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that just goes to
rock
show
with
Diane Weiss. Like, it can be whatever material. It's just if the character, like, speaks to you.
Yeah. I think she's really fun in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's just very much like a mom, just like this unhip, like, mom. Ooh, that's from my era. That, like, Diane Weiss voice.
Grooving on a Sunday afternoon.
Which, to me, that is, like, such a lowrider song.
Sure.
Like, to me, I hear that song.
You just think of, like
I just think cruising down Whittier Boulevard.
You just think of just going to car shows with your uncle?
Yes. You're just cruising down Whittier Boulevard on a Sunday afternoon, and I do not imagine Diane Weiss being there. But, hey, it's from her era. So,
I also think that gay men fucking love Diane Weiss, too. So another little check mark on movies that made us gay, too.
Yes, this is true. She's iconic. How many Oscars does she have? Two?
Two.
Both for Woody Allen movies?
Both for Woody Allen movies for
Bullets Over Broadway.
Bullets Over Broadway and Hannah and Her Sisters.
Wow. Good for her. This movie has a double Oscar winner in it. And also Jason Patrick. Who I mean, I'm sure his career is fine when you look at it on paper.
Jason Patrick just sounds like a pain in the ass whenever I've heard stories about him. I think there's a reason why Jason Patrick does not work a lot anymore. Because I just think that he's just kind of difficult.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I guess I didn't really think that much about Jason Patrick. When you watch movies like Lost Boys, you're like, why wasn't his career bigger? I mean, I know his career is fine.
Yeah.
But he seems like, if you look at him, he's a very handsome guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fine actor. His career should have skyrocketed. He should have kind of followed Kiefer,
For sure.
So, I mean,
just found himself as the Keanu replace in Cruise 2, or Speed 2.
Cruise Control?
Cruise Control.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So did Keanu just not want to be in that?
Yeah, they wrote the script. He said no, and they just changed the name in the script and cast Jason Patrick.
There's probably just like a throwaway line, like, I wish. I don't remember his character.
Yeah, it's when Sandy is doing her driver's test. She kind of gives like, well, this is what happened to Keanu Reeves, and now I'm dating a new guy. I think I am maybe a little more familiar with Speed 2 than all of you.
Yeah,
I love the idea that Speed 2 starts off with Sandra Bullock's character taking a behind-the-wheel driver's test. Genius. Couldn't have written it better myself.
It's where you get all of the exposition that you need going into the movie.
Yeah. Oh, man. We're going to watch Speed 2 Cruise Control.
I feel like it's always on streaming.
It's got to be.
Just when I think of speed, they're moving the bus. It's moving 50 miles per hour. A cruise ship just doesn't scream speed to me.
Is it like a yacht? I feel like
no,
it's not quite.
It's a cruise ship.
It's a full-on cruise ship?
I think so.
Oh,
I think it's a cruise ship.
Like, had planes been done too many times at that point? Like, executive order,
but you guys,
passenger 57.
But you guys, we hadn't got the cruise ship running on land. Of like when it's speeding out of control and it goes up on the shore of San Francisco, I think.
But that's got to be like 10 seconds. Then what happens?
It's like a whole 20-minute scene.
It drives on the street. Like, what does it get on the cable car line?
Yeah, like it runs on the street.
How does it do that?
Does it have its own bell?
This is not a thing. That's not how cruise ships work.
Like it would hit the land and stop.
I've been on a cruise ship. They don't have wheels. Well, we'll do our Speed 2 cruise control episode.
Wait, so cruise ships don't have wheels?
We've yet to do a Sandra Bullock episode. So
We haven't done any Sandra Bullock movies?
no While You Were Sleeping.
Where would you start? What would be your dream?
I know Scott's.
I love While You Were Sleeping.
But don't you love that witch movie?
Oh, Practical Magic.
Practical Magic.
Sure.
That's your big Sandy movie.
Mm-hmm. But then, like, Speed has handsome Keanu in it.
Keanu.
Too, so...
Yeah, come on.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes us on a tour of Los Angeles. I love Speed. From 95?
94.
That was my era.
This is another tour of Los Angeles where Joe can call in and you guys can argue about the geography of Los Angeles.
Yes. And what liquor stores we can see in the background of shots. I think I cut a bit out where Joe was like, and I remember that convenience store. I'm like, all right. This is a little too inside baseball. So, okay. Should we get to the final showdown?
Yeah, we should.
Because that scene is crazy.
Yeah.
Poor Alex Winter doesn't even make it to the final showdown.
Yeah, poor Alex gets like a stake to the chest when hanging upside down. Do you like that they're vampires that hang upside down like bats?
I don't mind that.
I think it's kind of cool.
Upside down, I like it. They show the prosthetic on the foot.
Yeah,
it looks like
that's
big,
right.
Like bat toes.
Yeah.
Which begs the question: is like when they fly, because I don't like Superman flying vampires.
Sure.
Do they have wings?
Kind of turn into bats, or like they like overgrown bats, like like Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah.
Just huge werebats, essentially, is what I'm seeing in my head. But I like that. I like the prosthetic. I like the hanging upside down.
You don't get a really good shot of them flying, so possibly.
Any shots.
It's always POV. You never get any shots of them flying.
You get one of them both running into each other, and that's one of the few CGI shots of the movie.
Not CGI, but like blue screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is some computer effects in that scene.
What?
Yeah.
Not in 87.
In 87?
Well, Joel says on the commentary that there's 2 shots in the movie.
I thought he said green screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just green screen.
That scene though where we lose Marco. R.I.P. Marco.
Yeah.
So I just got contacts and I'm struggling to put them in, and whenever I put them in and my eyes just start to water, I always think of that shot of Keither when he's like trying to grab him and then his hand gets burned.
You get
and
the single tear.
You just see like the single tear. And I guess that in the making of it, the contacts Keither was wearing were just so massive and just hurt his eye, and they were so hard to put in that sometimes his eyes would just water. Just like sometimes he would just have tears running down his eyes. So that is a real tear from the contact.
But that makes for a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
Though. It's a great shot.
Yeah, for sure.
But that kind of going back to Marco's death, though, when I watched it, I was like, Edgar, Alan, and Sam are the loudest vampire hunters. They're trying to sneak in there during the day to kill vampires. And they're all
terrible.
Going, this way, come over here. Like, it's just so, like, it's no wonder these vampires just didn't wake up and eat them.
Yeah.
And shouldn't they all be doing this at the same time, too? Are they going to go, like, one by one?
Yeah.
They just kind of stood there for moral
They
support.
should each go to one.
Yeah.
They would have knocked 3 of them out.
Preferably start with David.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did question. They're like, who's the head vampire?
Oh, yeah,
They
true.
didn't know.
They didn't know.
I guess Marco just looked the coolest with that badass curly mullet.
That's true. They said didn't they say the small one?
The small one.
Yeah.
So I always, growing up and also up until recently, I was always super into Dwayne.
Okay.
The Billy Worth one. The one with the long raven hair.
black-haired one, yeah.
But within the past year, I'm just like, I'm kind of been overlooking Alex Winter. Because just those like beautiful eyes.
His tiny little Paul McCartney face.
Mm-hmm. Whenever I watch Bill and Ted, I think that he's Bill, right?
He's Bill.
I think Bill is the cutest. I know that's like
controversial.
But I think
the cutest one where the other one's Keanu.
I think Alex Winter is just so adorable in that movie. So I have kind of overlooked Marco as the vampire.
Yeah.
Sure. I have to say, in Bill and Ted, he is a little bit stronger of a comedian of the two of them. Keanu's funny. He's got the voice down. and he's doing the voice stuff. But I think Bill is doing the heavy lifting when it comes to the comedy stuff. And plus he's got the little midriff cut off. It is a inside out sweatshirt.
Shows off his cute little stomach.
It's got an inside out sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off, and it's a midriff. And so his whole six pack is showing the entire movie.
Yeah.
And he's wearing Bugle Boy pants with boxers sticking out of the top. Come on.
You just want to pinch those cheeks. He's so cute.
Come on, Alex Winter. And then and this one and they call him a little, and he's I mean, I don't know how tall Keanu is, but he's significantly smaller than Keanu in Bill and Ted. So I'm imagining he's kind of a small guy. I remember I don't know if I read it or if it was in one of the special features where they were talking about the vampire makeup appliances that they made for everybody, and that when they made the one for David, for Kiefer's character, that they were pretty much locked after what they made for him, but they did the mold of his face, and the makeup artist or the head makeup designer referred to Kiefer Sutherland as having a pixie nose because he just has very kind of fine features for a man, and he's just we just kind of had to work around Kiefer's little pixie nose. And I thought that was the funniest thing. I was I never thought about that. But yeah, just having to build up these makeup appliances on all of them. Do we see Marco with the? Yeah, you get a shot.
Did we get
a shot of him?
You get a shot of at least all of them, at least
everybody
once.
Okay.
I think you see it around the fire whenever they take out the surf Nazis.
When they're with the surf Nazis.
When they take out the surf Nazis, there's some gnarly shit.
One of them
there.
bites into
that's the goriest
bites into the guy's head.
Yeah, bites into his head and pulls his skull back.
Yeah.
And there's a blood a
splatter, and it's cut really fast.
Yeah,
they're quick cuts, but it's there.
Well, it's to horrify the audience and Michael.
Yeah, for
seeing what they are for the first time.
Yeah.
This is what we are, and this is what you are.
Yeah. Oh my God, that. There's a lot going on with that little speech.
So now you know what we are. Now you know what you are. You'll never grow old, Michael. And you'll never die. But you must feed.
That's the shot of all of them.
Yeah. I always thought that was so smart when they do the whole thing with the noodles and the rice. And then he's like, well, now have some wine. And Star's like, don't drink it, it's blood. And he's like, it's just wine. They're just pranking me. But he's got enough of his wits about him to be like, oh no, it's just another prank. But still, you just saw worms and maggots in your doggy bag. So he's in some kind of he's there, but he's still just kind of all right, whatever, let's do it. That didn't look like blood in that bottle, though.
It did not. It was very thin.
It was very thinned out. There was actual wine in there, too.
The rules for creating a vampire in this movie.
Oh,
too, kind of
yes.
He just drank blood.
He
just drank vampire
but
blood.
But maybe it's ancient vampire blood or something.
Well, once again, we don't know how old any of these.
Yeah.
How old is Max? I feel also kind of going back to the rewatch I just did of True Blood. Almost every scene they tell you how old they are. I'm 800 years old.
Sure.
And it's you don't know anything about these vampires.
Bill was very quick to remind you that he was bit in the Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He probably does that every single episode.
He does it a lot. And they're full flashbacks.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm okay with it being ambiguous, though. I think it works.
Yeah, it works. And it's kind of up to you to put that on them.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I felt like they were turned in the 60s, 70s because they're very up to time. Star and Laddie must be fairly new additions because, Laddie's still on the milk carton. Mm-hmm. So how long did they run those things on milk cartons in the 80s? 6 months, a year?
Yeah,
maybe,
for sure.
Something like that.
They just picked up this kid running wild on the boardwalk and just be like, he seems cool. Yeah, why not?
What do they need a kid for?
Also, if I was the head vampire, I'd certainly question David's sanity here. Why would you turn a child into a vampire?
Or do you really want to be taking care of this kid for hundreds of years?
Yeah.
I get that it's going to be like a Claudius situation, that he's going to grow up in his mind, so he technically won't always have the mindset of a child, but still. But
maybe a kid
like
can lure in other kids as food.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is what they're thinking.
A whole Claudius situation, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. But, Lestat's whole, character beat is that he knows nothing. His whole character beat was I'm going to give you the choice I was never given. He knows, Marius told him nothing, but Marius actually did tell him all that stuff. So, that's his whole gig. So, it could just be part of their personalities that they just are accepting what's going on and moving forward.
And they just want a gang of misfit boys, I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess it makes sense that they have a younger one.
Yeah.
I always find the idea of children as vampires really fascinating. Their mental capacity.
Yeah.
They will age, but they'll go insane.
Yes.
Because there was another vampire movie that came out the same exact year, actually, that had a child vampire as well. It was a great film. Not to plug another film on this, but we've talked about so many films. Near Dark.
Is that directed by Catherine Bigelow?
That is
right.
Directed by Academy Award winner Catherine Bigelow. It's such a great
I've never seen it.
It came out the same exact year and was completely overlooked by this film. It's got a soundtrack by Tangerine Dream.
Oh my god.
Even better.
It's so good, and it also kind of flips a little bit. The lead is a female vampire who draws in a young man.
Okay.
Played by Adrian Pazdar.
Ooh.
At a super young, hunky age.
Ooh,
yeah.
I love Adrian
In rural, West Texas. The whole thing is very gypsy, Roman.
Yeah.
It's such a good film. And the two things I love about it, and I'll leave it at this, they never, ever once say the word vampire.
Sure.
And they never show fangs.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic film. The ending gets a little rocky,
Sure,
but it's a good film.
And doesn't it also have Vasquez from Aliens?
Vasquez, Lance Henriksen, also from Aliens.
Also from Aliens.
Yep.
Got a big alien. Oh, well Bigelow.
Bigelow.
Sure.
Yeah, Cameron was I got some people for you.
Right.
So.
Wow, okay.
It's such a great film.
Yeah.
I get it confused with that Clive Barker movie.
Nightbreed.
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 Yeah.
Nightbreed we have problems with.
Well, the lead from Nightbreed has a very Jason Patrick in Lost.
Does.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right, well, we're definitely going to check out Near Dark. Because I've been wanting to... I can't believe both of us have let it go for this long.
Yeah, whereas this movie is fun and stylized, and that movie is just dark and gritty and dirty. Two completely different films.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, definitely Near Dark. I can't suggest it enough. It's such a great film.
Cool. We'll jump on that. All right. Well, we should keep this moving because we've covered a lot.
There's the big showdown. There's the big showdown at the house. They brought Star and Laddie back, and they're sort of luring in David and his gang to the house. Which kind of rookie move. Do you really want to invite them into your house?
Yeah, but it's their turf, so they're able to set up booby traps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is also probably one of the remnants of that original script.
Yeah.
That your last act of the movie kind of has to turn Goonies with all of these booby traps.
Yeah.
And adults have to walk through them.
I can definitely see that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how many churches do you think they hit up to get that much holy water for the tub?
I love that shot.
There's so much holy water in that tub, and they've also filled up all their squirt guns.
I was
going to say, holy water.
How did they fill it up with one squirt gun at a time? Well, all you got to do to make water holy is just have a priest bless it.
That is a great scene, though, in that tub.
And which one dies in the tub? Paul.
When we lose Paul, he bursts all the pipes, and there's vampire goo
everywhere.
That beautiful Pomeranian mullet.
They ruined that house.
And I know we're at the final battle, and I hate to backtrack you some, but whenever we killed Marco, and now we're outside getting everyone into the car, the first time I noticed today, I was watching the film. It's the vampire goo that's sprayed all over the Frog Brothers is very glittery.
Oh, is it?
It's so glittery, and I think it's just to reflect light when they're in the sun.
Yeah.
But when Alan turns around and you see the back of his head, it's full on glitter.
I never noticed
And I thought
that.
to myself, is there glitter in the vampire goo? I started reading trivia online.
I suppose
they
it-
put glitter
I suppose
in the vampire
it's just
goo.
they
Oh,
wanted
wow.
it to read
Yeah.
better on film.
Yeah.
And it would probably just look a little duller.
That
Yeah.
shine, yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that vampire goo everywhere. Poor Paul. There goes Paul. We've lost Marco. Now we're down Paul.
So how do they get Blondie? The long-haired blonde one.
Paul.
Oh,
He's in
that
the
is
tub.
Paul. That's
He's
the
in
tub one.
That's
I
in
thought
the
the
tub.
dark-haired one died in the tub.
No, the dark hair one is Death by Stereo.
Death by Stereo.
That's a great scene.
That's Dwayne.
Yeah.
That's a pretty punk that's a pretty punk rock way to go.
Oh yeah,
too.
And then the stereo comes on.
That's
when
a good movie death.
When the arrow pierces his heart into the stereo, so good.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the fact that when they're introducing and talking about all this vampire lore in this film, they talk about killing a vampire can become pretty messy, which we see with Paul.
Yeah.
Which I think that house is ruined, by the way.
Oh yeah. The plumbing's shot.
It's shot.
Oh, they're gonna have to gut that house.
Yeah.
Good job.
Flip it. Just buy a new house. But they talk about no vampire dying the same way.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting and fun. Is that just a built-in excuse in the script for the FX
To
department to
have-
just get
yeah.
crazy with how we kill our vampires?
Yeah,
you
because
see
there's a line about that
Yeah.
they can die in multiple different ways,
and
right?
that is something that carries over into the not great sequels, but
Yeah.
it carries over. Like, a vampire dies in one of the sequels and she turns to marble. Like it's this kind of interesting thing where every
Yeah.
vampire has a unique death, and I think that's really kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like the Buffy thing. Every time we kill a vampire, it just turns to sand.
Turn to
Yeah,
Well, I mean, television show budgets aside.
yeah, true. CG sand, just
Yeah, exactly.
or True Blood, where they just pop like a water balloon.
That always creeped me out. Though.
I feel like in Anne Rice, it was always kind of different ways of whenever vampires would die.
I'm trying to think to the books, and I don't.
And it's even
remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And it's even like when you even try to kill a vampire like Lestat, it might not stick.
Well, it was just depending on how old and powerful they were.
Yeah.
You'd have to literally destroy their body.
And I'm thinking about all the vampire deaths in like the film Interview. It's like,
Yeah.
it's either by sunlight or just Louis running around beheading people like a madman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and in Twilight, which is like the real.
Well, it's been fun. I'll see
fun.
you later.
Early in the quarantine, we did a rewatch of all of the Twilight movies because we're just like, well, what else are we doing? So we watched all of them in the course of like a week and a half.
Speaking of vampire glitter,
Oh my goodness gracious!
And it's just one of those things with that movie. I just think that Stephanie Meyer's creation of that universe is just so lazy. I just don't think
So
that they're
lazy.
that layered or fun.
no, the characters no, but I will. I don't know. I don't want to give her too much credit.
Yeah.
because I feel like it is definitely some lazy creation. But all of the reading I've done about vampire lore, there actually is some lore on vampires that in sunlight they do reflect the sun.
Okay.
Not twinkle or whatever the hell, but there is a vampire myth about reflecting the sun from their skin. So
And it just being an excuse to get around why we don't go into the sun.
you want to,
And it's not because we're going to burst into flames, but it's because we'll be exposed or whatever.
I don't know. I like the burst into flames.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like it that in this movie, it's like his hand just fucking caught on fire, like in the sunlight.
John Carpenter's vampires, they just turn into a fireball as soon as they're introduced to sun at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. That's like the only time we really get to see any of these vampires introduced to the sun is whenever he reaches his hand out and it catches on fire immediately.
And Kiefer Sutherland, man, I mean, good choice all around, like acting-wise and all that, but he's so white.
Yeah.
When they shine that key light on him in their lair, he's like blue. Like the light is reflecting off of his skin.
It's like them lighting. It's like them lighting Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
In the Moulin Rouge.
Yeah. He's like that white. And like that just like...
But like being that white, I love the contrast of those contacts that he's wearing. Those
yeah, for
orange,
sure.
red. It stands out so well.
Yeah, totally. And that like bleached out hair, like, and even like his beard is so like fair too. It's not like it's crazy. Huh, Kiefer.
Yeah.
Good choice. And again, like I said, scary as shit. Like I would just, oh my God. And in not Lost Boys, but
Stand By Me?
Stand By Me, he would just make me nervous. Like,
well, he's got a very intense stare.
So intense. I felt like he was going to fuck those kids up. Like, not just like threats, not like, oh, I'm going to beat you guys up. Like, he is going to put these kids in the hospital.
Watching that movie as a child, I thought for sure he is going to murder them.
Yeah. Yeah, if they didn't have a gun at that moment, like some bad shit was going to happen. Yeah. He's that intense in that movie. And he's pretty fucking scary in this.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah,
in this.
yeah.
You know, and it's also, you were talking about, you know, things that you saw like for the first time as a child.
Mm-hmm.
When I was watching this movie, this is the first time I've ever seen fangs that weren't on canines.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, I
They
never
can
noticed
be
that.
In different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blew my mind. Loved it.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice because you usually see them on the canine teeth,
and I think moving them forward one presents really well on film.
It
they
does.
don't have to like open their mouth real big for you to see their fangs. Just casual conversation, you can see it.
You can get a good chomp on a gutter punk's bald head.
Did they have him in that same position? Going back to True Blood, I think they did that there as well, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They had him in the same position, but they only had one on each side, whereas in Lost Boys they had them in that position, but they also had canines that were smaller.
Yeah.
So they had like a double set of fangs. Yeah.
I also don't mind a Nosferatu 2 front teeth.
The front teeth.
Like a nice little hamster.
Yeah.
Little rat teeth.
I'm talking classic.
I'll also accept that. Yeah.
Well, that's just creepy as hell. I go back to Salem's Lot.
Oh yeah.
Nosferatu, Salem's Lot, those little front pointy teeth, long fingers, with
which brings us to the classic card game Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh my god. Nosferatu.
Yes, and it has all the different...
I almost brought up Vampire the Masquerade a couple times. I was like, I don't know how deep we're going, so I'll keep that.
Okay, I have to be honest, and my only experience with Vampire the Masquerade is the short-lived television series, which I'm sure was a diluted version.
Let me tell
of, like,
you,
the real
I have
shit.
no idea what you guys are talking about.
As someone who played Vampire the Masquerade on a fairly regular basis, I was sitting at home watching that TV show, and I was like, that is not an ability a Bruja has. That's something only a Tremere can do. You can't share blood powers. Sorry, guys, I'll stop right there.
I love that.
God,
I love that. And I knew that. Even at the time, I was like, this has to be wrong. Because I feel like I read probably in TV Guide that this was based on a card game and all of that. So I was like, there has to be so much lore that I don't know.
It's a tabletop role-playing game.
Okay.
And for the initiated, I did Mind's Eye Theater, which is live action.
Oh boy.
I wore the makeup, the leather jacket. I went through a whole thing. Like there was a big goth phase in my life. I had the long hair.
So you can say LARPing.
Okay. I didn't know how initiated listeners might be.
We saw role models. We're familiar with LARPing.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty accurate description, right?
It's of a certain type of game, yes.
Yeah. Oh, man. Scott, we'll go into Vampire the Masquerade as soon as this is
And
over.
if you ever want to watch the show, I own it on DVD.
I love that.
You two fucking nerds.
I love that. God, that had to have been syndicated.
Welcome to Nerd
Yes,
Talk with
this
Pete and Billy.
This has been Tabletop Board Game Talk. Oh, man.
Next week, we talk about Werewolf the Apocalypse.
Ooh. That one's a little over my head. It stops with Vampire the Masquerade for me.
It never got a television show. So.
See, that's why. So, okay. All right. We got to wrap this one up. We've gotten everybody, but now we've got the final showdown.
The good bitch fight between David and Michael.
David and Michael. And this is where all of the taxidermy pays off.
This is where we see them flying, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get that
This
great
is the
shot
green
of them
screen.
flying in the air.
Yeah. Where they don't turn into giant bats, so there
Right.
goes that theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, maybe they just haven't fully, if they had a little bit more time, maybe they would.
Maybe for longer flights.
This is more just them jumping
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I
across
can
the
see that.
room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
can
if
see
they
that.
want to beat each other up or whatever, maybe they feel like if we stay. Well, Michael probably couldn't turn into a full bat at this point, anyways.
Well, this is when you finally get Michael with the vampire.
Oh
face.
yeah,
We
he
get the-
vamps out.
I guess that was a big issue on set is that Jason Patrick didn't want to be in the makeup.
What?
So Joel said, okay,
Lame.
sure, like, Jason, you don't have to be in the makeup. And then the day of shooting, they're just like, Jason,
get in that goddamn
so
chair.
you're going to have to get in the makeup chair today. And I guess that he was super mad and wanted to walk off set.
You know, we never see Star vamp out.
No, yeah.
We see Laddie.
No.
We
Yeah, we
never
do.
see Star vamp out. Ever.
That would have
Yeah.
been cool.
I would have liked to have seen Jamie Gertz vamp
Yeah,
out.
that would have been cool. What does he say about Laddie? Attack of Eddie Munster?
Eddie Munster.
Attack of Eddie Munster. I want to see like a scene of Star and Sam like trading like fashion tips or something.
I feel like Star and Sam would have like been friends.
They would have been best Judies.
Yeah, like she would have. Yeah, he would have loved her. Like she would have been hanging out in his room.
I can definitely see her rocking that linen trench coat, that sleeveless linen trench coat.
They would borrow clothes from each other.
She could pierce his ears.
Oh man, she would totally. Yeah, I like this. I like where this is going. You can write the fan fiction. The Star and Sam tales. But okay, so Kiefer gets impaled on some antlers.
That shot of Keither when Edward Herman goes up to him and he looks at his face.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Keither looks like he's 19
Super
years
young,
old.
yeah.
He looks really soft.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the lighting, but he looks really baby faced.
Yeah.
You can see he's kind of got like chubby cheeks. Yeah, he looks very young in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That pixie nose.
But we also don't see anything spectacular happen to David's body.
Right.
Like he doesn't blow up, he doesn't melt, nothing happose.
Yeah.
I mean, that could just be all vampires die in a different way. Maybe he just
They just got his heart.
Yeah.
But I think that was also supposed to be a setup for a potential sequel.
Oh, okay. That he didn't actually
That David didn't actually die.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because
But he didn't die though.
But there was so many like scripts floating around for sequels that Schumacher wanted to make after this film. Like he wanted to make them quick, and they just never happened.
Oh, okay.
And also Schumacher's schedule was probably just pretty booked up until the mid 90s.
Oh yeah,
that he was consistently making movies until the end of the 90s.
Yeah, because he just kept going with like The Client. Then he made the two Batman films. Like Schumacher, you know, for all the shit he takes, his career. I mean, all the shit he takes for the Batman films alone, his career was fantastic.
Yeah.
And he kind of lived life and made films the way he wanted it to and did not apologize for it. And I feel like that's what makes him a great filmmaker. He has a vision and he sticks to it. And he has a sense of like whimsy about his films.
Yeah. Yeah. I suppose we should just end the show just kind of reflecting on Joel Schumacher.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you said, making the movies the way he wants to. Like he got somebody like Bo Welch,
the production designer,
to art direct this movie,
who had worked with like Tim Burton.
Yeah, Bo Welch went on to do Edward Scissorhands,
Beetlejuice.
Yeah, like crazy movies that are just known for their visuals. And yeah, at the time, like Tim Burton hadn't quite gone off in that direction yet, so that was kind of like, I don't know, super visionary. And
yeah,
cool.
And also he started the careers of Kiefer Sutherland, Julia Roberts, practically discovered Colin Farrell with Tigerland. I think pretty much like hand-picked his audition for him to be the lead of that movie, and Colin went on to be a huge movie star. So yeah, he just saw the potential in a lot of actors earlier in their careers.
And he's such a versatile filmmaker. He was never like pigeonholed into one genre.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of like too bad is that super basic people just walk away from his career just looking at the Batman movies.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's really so much more than that. I mean, obviously we here fucking love those movies. Like we have devoted almost 4 hours of podcast air just talking about them.
And I'll tell you, like, as someone who like was like a nerdy teenager, nerdy adult now, like, you know, when I saw those movies originally, I didn't appreciate them at all.
Yeah.
It felt like a stylistic dive away from what Tim Burton was doing. But then when you get older and you learn these behind the scenes things and you look at new stuff from a different eye, you can see that he was really making this his own thing. And those movies are fun and they hold up and they're just, God, they're a blast. He just wanted Batman to be fun. And he kind of was hearkening back to that old like 66 Adam West a little bit, which I don't think people appreciated.
Yeah.
But he was he was having fun with the movies and like playing up some of the very clear homoeroticism in Batman.
Yeah. I mean, given the choice on a Sunday afternoon to watch either of the Schumacher Batman movies or like
Dawn of Justice
or Dark Knight Rise. I mean, Dark Knight's great. I love the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But the other one with Bane, it gets a little long.
It's long.
It's long.
It's long and it gets lost. It gets lost in itself.
It's like, that's a really weird movie to see in a description in your TV guide.
It's good. It's got great scenes.
I don't think they could describe that movie in a TV guide.
No, it would take a whole page. It's got great scenes, but I can pick and choose scenes that I want to watch and just be like, wow, that sounds great on my soundbar, and that looks amazing on a 4K TV. But to sit down and watch all of Dark Knight Rises is a chore. I can't say that Batman and Robin is a chore. It's stupid and it's crazy.
As is Batman Begins, too.
Oh, Batman Begins. Yeah, that's another one.
Mm-hmm. I feel like Dark Knight is a ride from beginning to end, where the two surrounding it are kind of a chore.
Yes.
Because you have such a long prologue in Begins.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm
It's
just
I
like,
thought
be
this was a
Batman already.
movie. Yeah. Where it's like, Schumacher just comes out of the gate and just says, we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're having fun. I know you've been sitting in your seat for 5 minutes, but here's Mr. Freeze. We're doing it. Yes, Batman is on skates.
Yeah.
Who cares? Don't question it.
There's
Enjoy
a new
the
villain
ride
in
or
Gotham
get
City.
out. Yeah.
He's calling himself Mr. Freeze.
Right. And also about Joel Schumacher, that's super interesting and just makes him an icon of the gay community, is that even before he directed movies, like he was hanging out at Studio 54 with like Halston and Diana Ross.
Yeah.
Just so like he had this whole life of being a window decorator for like a department store
in fashion
and a career in fashion, and just would hang out with all of these super cool people and just be a young 30-something gay man in New York City back when
he made it out of the 70s alive.
He made it out of he made it out of like the 80s alive, and he didn't die of AIDS.
Yeah.
And he just like sort of was able to live his authentic life at a time where you really didn't see very many public figures do that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. I don't think he ever really compromised who he was.
Yeah.
No.
He was always like bold and made these choices and never hid his personality or, being out. He just, this is Joel Schumacher. Love it or leave it.
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
it.
And also, when you listen to all of his commentaries, like on the Lost Boys, on the Lost Boys DVD, on all of the Batmans, you never hear him badmouth anybody who he works with. Even though there's always stories that he kind of got into it with Val Kilmer, he never speaks an ill word about anybody who he's directed.
Yeah.
Like, he only has praise to say about anyone.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's like, you would think it's like, well, you can't really, talk bad about anybody in Hollywood or whatever, but it's like, at a certain point in his career, he could just be like, fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell all.
And he's had such a wide, varied career. I remember when he passed away recently, I looked at his IMDb and I was like, oh, Joel Schumacher directed that?
Right.
He's got so many great films.
Yeah.
In his filmography. It's just like, look him up on IMDb, go down his filmography. If there's something you're not familiar with, watch it. I guarantee you'll love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Akiva Goldsman did a really good interview. I forget what it was for, but he did a big sit down with him within the past year. I think it was kind of right when it was the cancer diagnosis that he did like an in-depth look at him. And it was a really interesting career.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we love Joel Schumacher. This movie's amazing.
Yeah. A movie that's like fully a part of my like love of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was one of my first films that I really got into, like that vampire mythology and this.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom showed me old Hammer horror films when I was a kid. She got me into all of this. I'm sure she's probably the one that showed me this film when it was on television.
Yeah.
And it's an iconic film from an iconic filmmaker, and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, agreed. Wow.
Yeah, like Joel's direction is just, I have in my notes, Joel's direction is cool and smooth. He really was in control of what kind of movie this was. He perfectly blends horror and comedy, and he never gets lost in it. It's never a movie that's searching for a tone. It fully knows what it is. And also, it's just sort of kind of tying back to this podcast for movies that made us gay, there's some queer shit in this movie, but it kind of like takes you by surprise. Like it kind of just sneaks it in there. Like it never even though we have like the sax guy, which is not subtle at all,
No.
but it still has some just very cool gay and punk elements to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being gay is punk.
Yeah.
It just is, by definition. Oh, man. Billy, this was a lot of fun.
Yes.
This was a blast.
Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. This was amazing. We love this movie. Go watch it if you haven't already.
Definitely check out Billy's other podcast episodes that he did with our friend, our podcast buddy, Ashley Cassidy on Keep It Weird.
And Lauren.
And Lauren Ongle.
Yes. Go check out Keep It Weird. You did an episode on vampires and one on werewolves. They have fun titles. Do you remember the titles of your episodes? Because they're crazy.
The vampire one is It's Only Noodles, Michael. So that ties in perfectly to this.
I love it. Yeah, definitely go check out Keep It Weird with Ashley and Lauren for some more fun vampire and werewolf lore with Billy. You can also find us on social media. We are, where are we, Scott?
Movies That Made Us Gay on
Instagram and Facebook.
And MTMUG Pod on the Twitter.
Yes, indeed. Go look for us there. We would love it if you would rate and review our show. That would be amazing. Come back next week for an all-new episode of Movies That Made Us Gay. Until then, bye, everybody.
Bye.